Imagine two summer camp counselors who accidentally swapped jobs and ended up sparking an unexpected romance. Join Brian and Ariel as they navigate hilarious mix-ups and discover that sometimes the best love stories start with a little confusion. It was the first day of summer vacation, and Brian Atkins was ready to coast through it with as little effort as possible. He was a high school jock, known for his athletic prowess and easygoing charm. He stood at 6 feet tall, with a muscular build and a smile that could light up a room. This summer, he'd signed up to go to sports camp, thinking it would be an easy gig and a great way to stay in shape for the upcoming football season. On the other side of town, Ariel Thompson was gearing up for what she thought would be the best summer ever. Ariel, a girl with a flair for the dramatic arts, was looking forward to spending her summer at a community theater. With her curly hair always styled in some creative fashion, Ariel's expressive eyes and vibrant personality made her a natural on stage. Her wardrobe was a mix of eclectic, bold pieces that showcased her love for all things theatrical. But fate had a different plan in store for Brian and Ariel. A clerical error at the summer job placement office resulted in Brian showing up at the community theater and Ariel at the sports camp. The confusion began the moment Brian walked into the theater. He was met with a sea of costumes, set pieces, and dramatic flair that was entirely foreign to him. Ariel, on the other hand, was greeted by the smell of sweat and the sound of whistles at the sports camp, a place where she felt like a fish out of water. Brian's first day at the theater was nothing short of disastrous. He fumbled with scripts, tripped over set pieces, and nearly knocked over the lead actress during a rehearsal. The theater director, a flamboyant man with a penchant for perfection, looked on in horror as Brian tried and failed to get into character. The other actors, though initially annoyed, soon found Brian's incompetence hilarious, and their laughter filled the room. Brian's athletic skills were of no use here, and his attempts at method acting were more comedic than convincing. Meanwhile, Ariel was having her own set of problems at the sports camp. Her first task was to demonstrate a basic basketball drill, something she had never done before. She dribbled the ball awkwardly, stumbled over her own feet, and accidentally launched the ball into a nearby bush. The campers, a rowdy group of kids who thrived on athletic competition, erupted into laughter. Ariel's artistic flair did little to help her navigate the world of sports, and her dramatic reactions to every mistake only made things funnier for the onlookers. Realizing the mix-up, Brian and Ariel each tried to correct the mistake. Brian called the summer job placement office multiple times, only to be put on hold or told to wait for a callback that never came. Ariel visited the office in person, but the receptionist was out on vacation, leaving a clueless temp in charge. Their attempts to swap back to their intended positions were thwarted at every turn, leading to increasing frustration. In a fit of desperation, Brian found Ariel's name and contact information in the summer job roster and decided to reach out on social media. He sent her a direct message, explaining the situation and suggesting that they meet up to figure out a solution together. Ariel, equally frustrated, responded quickly, agreeing that they needed to find a way to fix the mix-up. Over the next few days, Brian and Ariel exchanged messages, trying to coordinate their schedules and find a time to meet. Their conversations started out purely practical, but as they shared their experiences and frustrations, a camaraderie began to form. They bonded over their mutual misfortune, sharing funny stories and offering words of encouragement. Brian sent Ariel a video of his failed attempt at acting, which left her in stitches, while Ariel shared a photo of her tangled in a soccer net, much to Brian's amusement. Despite their growing rapport online, the mix-up persisted. The summer job placement office remained unresponsive, and Brian and Ariel found themselves stuck in their unwanted roles. However, their virtual conversations became a bright spot in their otherwise chaotic days. They discovered shared interests, like a love for cheesy 80s movies and a mutual disdain for pineapple on pizza. Little by little, they began to look forward to their nightly chats, feeling a spark of something more than just friendship. As the first week came to a close, both Brian and Ariel began to see their summer jobs in a new light. What had started as a frustrating mix-up was turning into an opportunity for growth. Brian was learning to appreciate the arts, and Ariel was finding joy in physical activity. They both realized that stepping out of their comfort zones was not only hilarious but also rewarding. Despite their initial struggles, both Brian and Ariel began to find small victories in their new roles. Brian discovered that he had a knack for improvisation, and his off-the-cuff humor started to win over the theater director. He still couldn't remember his lines perfectly, but his natural charm and wit made up for it. Ariel, meanwhile, started to incorporate her theatrical skills into her coaching, turning each drill into a mini performance. Her enthusiasm was catching, and the kids at the camp started to look forward to her imaginative twists on traditional sports activities. Their mutual friends found their situations amusing and encouraged them to stick it out. Ariel's friends from the theater would joke about Brian's latest blunder, while Brian's teammates would tease him about his newfound acting career. By the end of the week, Brian had become a favorite among the theater crew, not because of his acting skills, but because of his ability to make everyone laugh. Ariel, too, had won over the campers with her creativity and energy. The mix-up that had seemed like a disaster was turning into the best thing that could have happened to them. As the second week of their summer jobs began, Brian and Ariel found themselves slightly more accustomed to their new environments, but the real challenges were just starting to emerge. For Brian, the community theater was gearing up for a major performance, a summer showcase that drew a substantial crowd from the town. The pressure was on, and the director was adamant about perfecting every detail. Brian's role, though still minor, was crucial to the overall production. His inability to stick to the script had been charming at first, but now it was becoming a real problem. The director's patience was wearing thin, and Brian could feel the weight of expectations pressing down on him. The rehearsals became more intense, and Brian's mishaps, once a source of amusement, now threatened to derail the entire show. He was determined to prove himself, but his nerves often got the better of him. During one particularly stressful rehearsal, Brian managed to knock over an entire set piece, causing a domino effect that took down half the stage. The crew scrambled to fix the mess, and Brian's face turned beet red with embarrassment. The director, though exasperated, couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Ariel, meanwhile, was facing her own set of challenges at the sports camp. The camp director had decided to hold a mini-Olympics, a series of competitive events designed to test the campers' skills and teamwork. Ariel was assigned to coach the relay race team, a task that seemed simple enough, but quickly turned into a comedy of errors. Her dramatic flair didn't translate well to the precision required for a relay race, and her team's practice sessions were filled with dropped batons, tangled legs, and plenty of laughter. Despite the chaos, Ariel's enthusiasm was catching. She turned each mistake into a learning moment, using her theatrical skills to keep the kids engaged and motivated. However, her methods drew the attention of the camp director, who questioned her unconventional approach. Ariel was called into a meeting and given a stern lecture about the importance of discipline and structure in coaching. She left the meeting feeling deflated but more determined than ever to prove herself. Finally, Brian and Ariel decided it was time to meet in person. They arranged to meet at a local park after work, both curious and a little nervous about finally seeing each other face to face. When they met, there was an awkward moment of silence as they took each other in, but it quickly dissolved into laughter as they exchanged stories about their latest mishaps. Their in-person meetings became a regular occurrence. After long days of fumbling through their respective jobs, they would meet up to decompress and share their experiences. These moments of camaraderie were a balm to their stressed souls, and they found solace in each other's company. They laughed about their mishaps, offered advice, and slowly but surely, their bond deepened. The more they got to know each other, the more they realized how much they had in common despite their different worlds. The tension between Brian and the theater director continued to build. Brian's final rehearsal before the showcase was a disaster. He forgot his lines, tripped over his costume, and nearly caused another set collapse. The director, at his wit's end, pulled Brian aside and gave him an ultimatum: shape up or be replaced. Brian felt the sting of failure and the fear of letting everyone down. He spent the night before the performance poring over his script, determined to get it right. Ariel's mini-Olympics day arrived with equal parts excitement and dread. Her team was pumped up thanks to her relentless encouragement, but their lack of coordination was still a major concern. As the race began, Ariel's heart raced with them. The first leg went smoothly, but the baton exchange was a disaster. Her team dropped the baton twice, losing precious time. Ariel felt the weight of the camp director's expectations bearing down on her, but she refused to give up. The final leg of the relay race saw Ariel's team catching up miraculously, thanks to a burst of speed from their anchor runner. They didn't win, but they finished strong, and the kids' enthusiasm was palpable. Ariel's unconventional methods had paid off in spirit, if not in victory. The camp director, seeing the joy on the kids' faces, gave Ariel a nod of approval. That evening, Brian and Ariel met at the park as usual. This time, the conversation turned deeper. They talked about their fears and aspirations, the pressures they faced, and the unexpected joy they found in their new roles. Brian admitted how much he had grown to appreciate the arts, and Ariel confessed how she had begun to enjoy the physicality and teamwork of sports. As the summer went on, their feelings for each other grew stronger. The mix-up that had thrown their lives into chaos had also brought them closer in ways they hadn't expected. They found themselves thinking about each other more and more, their nightly meetings becoming the highlight of their days. The lines between friendship and something more began to blur, but with the end of summer approaching, they both knew that their time together was limited. As the final weeks of summer approached, Brian and Ariel found themselves grappling with conflicting emotions. Their summer jobs had forced them to grow in ways they hadn't expected, but now they faced the prospect of going back to their old lives. The impending separation created an undercurrent of tension, testing the bond they had formed. Brian's last major hurdle at the theater was the final performance of the summer showcase. The director had warmed up to him, recognizing Brian's unique charm and comedic timing. However, a last-minute change to the script threw Brian into a panic. The director decided to add a complex dance sequence to Brian's role, something Brian had never done before. Rehearsals were grueling, and Brian struggled to keep up with the choreography. The other actors, though supportive, couldn't hide their concern. Meanwhile, Ariel was tasked with organizing the camp's grand finale, a talent show that would feature performances from the campers and staff. Her experience in theater made her the perfect candidate, but the scale of the event was daunting. Ariel had to coordinate with various camp departments, ensure that every act was polished, and manage the logistics of the show. The pressure was immense, and Ariel felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on her. Despite their busy schedules, Brian and Ariel made time to see each other. They would meet at their favorite spot in the park, where they could talk and unwind. These moments were a lifeline, but the looming end of summer cast a shadow over their time together. They were both acutely aware that their days were numbered, and neither of them knew how to bridge the gap between their summer romance and their regular lives. As the date of the talent show and the final performance drew near, tensions flared between Brian and Ariel. During one of their park meetings, a casual conversation turned into an argument. Brian, overwhelmed by his dance rehearsals, vented his frustrations, and Ariel, equally stressed about the talent show, snapped back. Harsh words were exchanged, and they parted ways, both feeling hurt and misunderstood. The next few days were a blur of rehearsals and preparations. Brian threw himself into perfecting his dance routine, determined to prove himself. Ariel, on the other hand, focused on finalizing the talent show, channeling her energy into making the event a success. Their friends noticed the tension between them, but chose to give them space, hoping they would work things out on their own. The night of the talent show arrived, and the camp was buzzing with excitement. Ariel stood backstage, coordinating the final details and ensuring that each act was ready. The show began, and one by one, the campers took the stage, each performance more impressive than the last. Ariel watched with a mixture of pride and anxiety, knowing that her role in the show's success was crucial. As the final act finished, Ariel took the stage to deliver the closing remarks. She looked out at the audience, filled with parents, campers, and staff, and felt a surge of emotion. She spoke about the importance of creativity, teamwork, and resilience, and how the summer had taught her more than she could have imagined. Her heartfelt speech was met with thunderous applause, and Ariel felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. Across town, Brian was preparing for his final performance. The theater was packed, and the energy was electric. Brian's heart pounded as he took his place on stage, the new dance sequence looming over him. But as the music started, something shifted inside him. He remembered Ariel's advice about embracing imperfections and decided to let go of his fears. Brian danced with a mixture of precision and spontaneity that captivated the audience. His movements were fluid and expressive, and his natural charisma shone through. The other actors followed his lead, and the performance reached a level of brilliance that took everyone by surprise. The final scene ended with a standing ovation, and Brian felt a sense of triumph that was unparalleled. After the show, Brian made a decision. He rushed to the camp, determined to find Ariel and make things right. When he arrived, the talent show had just ended, and the camp was filled with the buzz of celebration. Brian spotted Ariel standing alone, watching the campers with a proud smile. He walked up to her, his heart pounding, and took a deep breath. Ariel turned to see Brian standing there, his eyes filled with determination. Before she could say anything, Brian pulled her into a passionate embrace, pouring all his feelings into that single moment. Ariel, taken by surprise, melted into his arms, the tension and misunderstandings between them dissolving in an instant. They pulled back slightly, looking into each other's eyes. Brian apologized for his outburst, and Ariel did the same. They laughed at their own foolishness, realizing how much they had missed each other. Their lips met in a kiss that was filled with longing and tenderness. The summer job switch, which had seemed like a nightmare at first, had brought them together in ways they hadn't expected. As they walked hand in hand through the camp, they talked about their future. They knew that their regular lives would bring new challenges, but they were determined to make their relationship work. The summer had taught them the importance of resilience, adaptability, and the power of love. Their final days of summer were filled with joy and laughter, a fitting end to their unexpected adventure. As they prepared to return to school, Brian and Ariel knew that they were forever changed by the experiences they had shared. Their story was one of growth, struggle, and the beautiful unpredictability of life. Thank you so much for listening to this short, romantic Audible. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to Love Stories Unplugged.